Uh, Good morning. It's day 3 of Warpstock Europe. I'm Greg Young, and I'm going to do a presentation on 4OS2. It's a NetLabs-based program, which is open source. Next slide. My main build shell is 4OS2. However, I don't set it in config.sys, and there's a handful of reasons because it just simplifies life. VMRex doesn't like 4OS2 for some reason, not clear why, but things like AMPM, ArcaMapper, both either the installers or the programs themselves don't behave as you would expect when run in 4OS2. And you can't install Arcanoa drivers using 4OS2. So how I use it is I have my environment scripts for my various projects, and it sets both the COM spec and the OS2 shell to 4OS2 for all those projects. Next slide. .4OS2 automatically opens Perl and runs it. I don't have to go out and type out my Perl directories and all that sort of thing. And you could set it for any extension and tie it to any command. It also loads the alias list. Aliases are normally just in memory. And so when your session ends, they would go away. But you can save them to a list which you can reload each time for those which you commonly use. Next slide. You have a bunch of display options, mostly setting colors and brightness. The change title toggle, what it does is it says if you have it checked, and you open something, the title on the window will change to whatever it is that you just opened. And if you have it off, it doesn't. It just remains 4OS2 at the top. Next slide. Make some changes for command line. You can toggle insert versus overstrike. You have file name completion options where it will or will not complete various file names depending on keystrokes that you use. And the command history options, which it's things like don't keep duplicate commands so that you can customize your history. It also, you can have it so that it loops, or so that you just run straight up and straight down and get to ends of it. Next slide. The next set, one of the interesting ones is the extended change directories. If you have it activated, which is level 1, 2, or 3, I really can't type. And it does star, not start. The search the basic search, it just searches for everything. If I type text as a directory, it will pull up everything. It pulls up in a dialog box that it opens every directory on my system that ends with text, that the last directory is text. If I go to level 2, it will pull, if I have a texting as one of my directories, it will pull up all the ones that end with text plus that one that is texting, because it'll pull up everything that begins with it. The third level is it'll pull up everything that contains it. So untexting would get pulled up on a level 3. And it's quite nice to be able to change directories without having to search through a whole drive because you don't remember what it's under. This requires that you build a database, and of course you need to keep it current. I just have a program which is a object, which is a 4OS2 object that has the, I think it's the CD/S is what builds the database. CDD/S, change drive and directory. And it just runs it at 3 o'clock in the morning every other day so that it keeps the database up to date. Next slide. You also can include descriptions. This was a much more useful feature when we predominantly had fat drives, because this was a way to put more information. It's a separate file that 4OS2 keeps indexed to so that it associates the comment for file A with file A, so you can look up the description. So it would be a way to tell you what that file really was when an 8.3 name wouldn't give you any idea what it necessarily was. So it's not really that useful now with long file names. You also can set special characters, like the command line separator is an aspirand, which says execute command A and then execute command B, and et cetera, et cetera. The escape character is obvious. Its default is the little hat. And the parameter character, which is the %sign, which gives you parameters that you can add to things. And then, of course, the separators for numbers. Next slide. This just gives you some more configuration options. You can force everything to uppercase. You can protect your redirect files. And what that means is if I redirect to file error.txt and then I do it a second time, it will warn me that I'm going to overwrite what I just created. I don't use the protection, but it's there. And then the default batch echo just tells it will either automatically echo batch files or will turn echo off for batch files. Within the batch file, you can explicitly turn it on or off, which overrides this. Next slide. This, you can set what help it pulls up. This one, it pulls up the 4OS2 help and the command reference help. Its memory command needs to know where swapper dat is. If your swapper dat is in the standard place, which is, I don't even remember where the standard place is, but if it's in the standard place, it finds it without this. Next slide.
It's an OS2 system.
Yeah. This, you can set basically colors. The directory setup is kind of nice because you can at a glance by the color of the file name tell if it's a hidden or a read-only file without having to find the little attribute column and read it. Next slide. Okay, the configuration notebook is quite incomplete compared to what configuration options you have with OS2. Probably has something to do with the maintainer adding more configuration options and not bothering to update the notebook, but I wouldn't know that for sure. So there are other things that are doable. You can set timestamp formats. You can set date formats. There's a duplicate bugs, and what that does is it gives OS2 the same bug that CMD has for a given function. The ifs command is the one that actually gets duplicated. Line input for OS2 is character input. It reads the characters one at a time. CMD actually reads the whole line when you input something. So setting it to line input just mimics CMD's behavior. You can also set it to use Unix paths. It still uses standard OS2 paths, but that way you can use either a / or a / in paths, and it works pretty well with them. It sometimes gets confused, but not that often. Don't have a directory name that has a space as the first letter in it.
What's my guess?
That probably doesn't work well anyways.
People still do that.
Yeah. Next slide. And this is just a collection of the commands. A lot of it I put in here just for completeness, so you can see what all the things are that you can do. Next slide. And they continue on. You can set the prompt just like in CMD to something other than what the default is. In other words, the C little less than sign. And I did lie, it's not options, it's just options singular to open the option notebook.
Well, that was an IA problem. Changing.
Yeah. And you can do logging with it. You can log your history. You can log your directory history. You can log several other things. Next slide. And you can do things like reboot the system from the command line. You can set the time, display the time. Next slide. The only one I'll talk about here is move. Move behaves differently in 4OS2 than it does in CMD in that I can move stuff from one drive to another. You can't in CMD. You can only move it on the same drive. Basically, their move amounts to a rename. And then the other thing that's different is if you move, say you put move and then 2 directory names on the line, and then you want to move it to a directory, it does not move the directories. It moves the contents of the directories, which is not what CMD does. You actually can, there is now a command line switch which I added, which will give you the CMD behavior. And I tell you what it was, but I don't remember. And then there's the describe, which is a way to look up the descriptions for the files that I talked about a little bit earlier. Next slide. And then just the standard ones, touch, which you can change the date of the file or the time of the file. Next slide. Then you have your standard just directory commands. CDD is an additional one, and what that means is change drive and directory. In CMD, if you're going to change to a directory on a different drive, you have to first of all put in the drive letter, hit enter, then do a change directory. Whereas with CDD, I can put the whole path in with the drive letter and everything, and it just simply changes to it. Next slide. Push D and pop D are kind of interesting in that it's an easy way to, if you're toggling back and forth between two directories, it's an easy way to do it because push D directory name changes you to the directory, the new directory, and then pop D takes you back. And so you get those into your command history, and you can easily toggle between your two directories. Next slide. They've got a large collection of batch and environment commands, most of which are ones that you would recognize as they're the same as in CMD. There are 41 total, so I didn't bother to list them all.
Those are well documented?
Yeah, they're all well documented. In fact, I counted them out of the help file.
Oh, so there might be more.
There actually might be more, but well, there are more because there are some what are called command variables, which we'll get to in a little bit, which give you actually even more options. A couple of ones that are different is if with two Fs. This gives you the ability to do if-else combinations, whereas with if you can't use else. If you can use the global command, which if you're doing a search, for example, it will include all the subdirectories in a tree. And then it has a delay command, which is pause or whatever. It's in seconds. So if you have something where you want it to sit and wait for a couple of seconds, then you can put this delay in. There's
there's a pause command, and that waits for the keystroke. And after switching the default to 4OS2, some batch processes like from AM/PM end up waiting for a key press, but there's no way to enter then, only to kill it. If you could change the default for start command to use delay instead of this pause, this would run through with a 1 or 2 seconds delay, but it would not cause an additional problem.
You're talking about in a new Arc OS install?
Yes.
Okay, if you go in and edit that, it goes away.
Yes.
And it's designed to be edited. It's actually set up that way deliberately because it's intended that the end user will do one of two things. They will either edit it to fit their needs, or they will accept that start command, and then the pause goes away. All you have to do is go in and pull it up and accept the command once. After that, it never happens again. And again, it's deliberate. It's not, in other words, it's intended to do that so that someone will do something about it, so that they will consciously make the decision, yes, I want whatever is the default that you provided, or no, I want something special and I will do it. You can pull you pull the editor up straight from that screen to edit it.
Unless you change the default first and then
Well,
Stuck
like I
without
said,
seeing.
it's intended to be
Okay.
that way. Yes, I could put the delay in, but that wasn't the intent. The intent was for someone to see, oh, I can edit this information and customize it, so I should do that. Or, no, I don't want to bother, so I'll just accept what they've given me and go with it.
Yeah, it's made for idiots and not for us.
But if you want to put in a bug request, I'll look at it. Next slide. Okay, other commands. Alias is probably one of the most powerful commands in this system. Unalias simply is a way to, like I said, the aliases are kept in memory, are held in memory, so unalias would take it out of memory. And here we have some just examples of it. You'll notice that some of the programs probably look sort of old, like WP, WordPerfect. That's because I cut some of these out of the help file, and the help file in that respect hasn't been updated since probably the early 90s, when this was first designed. But as you can see, the aspiran, there's an example of the push D, where you change to a different directory, you run a program, and then at the end you pop D, which takes you back to wherever you had started. But all of these, you can make really quite complex aliases so that you can run a bunch of things all at once. Next slide. And here's some more examples of the alias command. And you can see some of them have the aspiran in them. The aspiran, well, in the at F5, that is a keystroke alias. What it does is it makes F5, if you hit F5, you get a wide directory based on that command. It waits until you hit enter after you hit F5 if you put it in that way. If you put two aspirans, it does it automatically. So aspiran F5 equals dir/w. You would hit F5 and you'd just get a wide directory listing of the current directory. In the other one, the aspiran is telling you that those are commands. Full provides the full path to whatever file you put at the end of the line, because the %1 will read the file that follows the alias. In other words, you would type CPEX. There's an equal sign. By the way, there's an equal sign missing out of that one. It should be CPEX equal, and then what it'll do is it'll check to see if the file, if you type that at the command line with a file name, CPEX 4os2.exe, what it will first do is it will find the full path to 4os2.exe. If it exists, it will then run the rest of this command. If it doesn't exist, it will look other places for it. That's what the search does. It will continue to search for it. And those are all internal commands, and there's a whole bunch of those. Next slide. And this is just another example of this is if you put the alias in and then put the command that's written down there, what it does is it push D, it takes the first command block, which is the path, C:\com, and puts it in there. So it changes to that directory. But then the second %2 with the $sign after it, it takes all of those pieces and puts them in. So you can get both the command and its command line switches without knowing how many command line switches it's going to have. In other words, it'll take, it takes from %2 to the end of the line and puts it there. So if I had just Z modem without the 56K, it would work. And if I had a third command line switch on it, it would work. Next slide. Then if you want to display your alias list, you just have to type alias, and it displays the list. In my case, you pipe it through less. And as I said earlier, unalias removes the alias from the list. And then alias/r, and then followed by a name, could be any file name that you would like. I use alias.list. That saves the file so that I can then reload it the next time. And as you can see, I have an alias to save the alias, save the list. Yeah, alias/r loads the file, I'm sorry. Loads the list. And saving it, you just direct the alias command to a file.
With a redirect, you mean?
Yeah, you redirect. Next slide. You can use the prompt command to prompt for something. You can use except to perform an action on all the files in a directory except, and you can use wildcards in except. So if you want to perform it on everything but the temp files, for example, you would put except star.temp. And then ffind is a search utility. You can find the files both by name and by content. Next slide. You have both global and local aliases. So you have aliases that are specific only to your current session, or you can have a global, like the list that I was talking about earlier, that would be a global alias list. And share alias is a little program that you run and it terminates and basically it just stays resident. And that, because if you close all your sessions, your alias list goes away as the ones you can share between them. And also the histories go away that you can share between the different processes. If you run share alias at the beginning, even if you close all your 4OS2 sessions, the next time you open one, they'll still be there because it saves them and reloads them. I run it from the startup folder, and you can see it's share alias and delay 5. The reason it's the delay 5 is because if you run it and immediately close the processors, sometimes it misses it. It doesn't load. So you have to put that little delay in. And then it has a timer, which just a stopwatch. Okay, next slide. Batch files. And I'm not going to talk about how to write batch files, but just one difference between 4OS2 and CMD is it has its own batch file processing method. BTM files are automatically processed that way, but you can actually set which way you want these run. And the BTM files at least claim to run 2 to 10 times faster than a CMD file.
Why?
I have no idea.
Kind of pre-processed model.
Because I've never looked at the actual code
This is the
for this.
sales.
Yeah. But you can also set it up so that 4OS2 will run all the batch files, even the CMD files, using this method. Because there's not anything inherently different in the syntax of the file. It's just however it's loading and running them. Next slide. Okay. We have what are called variable functions, and they're like the ones we saw, the @full, which gives you a full path, which creates a full path, and the @search, which searches for something. And these can all be used in batch files. And you have to precede them with %sign because they're a variable, and that just is the marker for a variable. And actually, you can change that % to something else if you want in the settings, and then it would be different. Probably not a wise idea if you're using anybody else's scripts. And there are several other rules for using them. Next slide. And again, here we have a very long list of variable functions. And you can look through these at your leisure to see what might be useful for you. Next slide. And then these are ones for files. The next slide. These are the date and time functions that you can use. Next slide. Then file name functions. Next slide. And their numbers in arithmetic. So there's a lot of things in here that can make your life a lot easier in creating complex scripts. Next slide. And there's all your string and character functions. And next slide. And a handful more utility functions. Next slide. And these are just, there's an examples.btm in the distribution, and they actually have an example of every one of the ones I just showed you. And these are pictures of them having been run. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. The best thing to do for this, if you want to really see what these do, is to run the examples.
Somebody else's system.
Yeah. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. One more. No, two more. One more. There. Yeah, and this is just my comment that I made earlier that it's an examples.btm, which ships with 4OS2. And like I said, it's quite nice if you can't quite figure out how to use one of these, you can actually go into the script and see exactly how they used it. Next slide.
Greg,
Yes.
Microphone.
you said ships with 4OS2. It ships with Arca OS?
Yeah.
Okay, not with this.
Well, if you download 4OS2 off of Hobbs, for example, it's in the package. That same package is the one that's in ArcOS.
Complete.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Also have a collection of internal variables, which provide you mostly information about the system, but it's an easy way to get certain information that you would like to have. Next slide. If you just want to see what's in the variable, you can simply type echo percent and then the name of the variable, and it will show you the contents of that variable. And again, here I have, next slide, I have a list of the different ones, and you can see that they're things like the CPU type, you know, what the boot, you can pull up the boot drive, the code page, all kinds of various information that you might need to process or to at least find out if you need to do something. Like if you're worried that your FAT32 code page is not the same one as the one you really have, you can pull up the code page variable and see what code page you really are using. Next slide. And again, another group of this, you can get a program's process ID, lots of different things. Next slide.
Wait a minute, Greg.
Yeah.
Is there a list, a command to list all the variables available? Or do you need to?
You need to look in the help file. I do not believe there's a command to list them.
So glad you're in this.
We'll see when I get to the end of this, see if I said that. Because thinking about it, I think there is a command to either list the function variables or the internal variables. And then, let's see, where am I? So you have, you know, the screens and colors you can query. You can query information about drives and directories. Next slide. And then, you know, all the different date information. You can get the day of the week. You can get the, you know, the day, what month it is. You get your time. All these different things, and then you can actually get error codes. You can get the error code from the last program that you ran, so that you can, you know, you can put this in a batch file and says if the command before was successful, do this, and if not, do something else. Next slide. Some other features. Redirection in OS2 has a slightly different, or 4OS2 has a slightly different syntax than CMD does, where you've got you put the number. If you want error redirected, you put a 2. If you want the screen redirected, you put a 1 in it. It actually, the CMD syntax actually works in 4OS2, but this is its native syntax for redirection. And then piping, again, it's got that syntax to pipe things. And it really pipes them. The two commands are running simultaneously. It doesn't save it to a file and then open the command and read it back in. It actually pipes them. And then the T and the Y are just slightly more sophisticated ways of piping things. Next slide. And then here's some of the conditional commands you can issue. You know, as you can see, if the first command backup C to A, if it returns 0, meaning it succeeded, this would then delete the backup files on C, the files that were backed up off of C. But if it fails, it won't. It doesn't do the delete. And then you can use OR if you want to say if the command fails, you do this. And so in this case, you might have the second command echo backup failed if you put the OR on. Next slide. There's a thing called key stack. You have to fill the key stack before the program runs. But here's an example of it. That you put in key stack these different things, and then you run FoxPro, and those things are put on the FoxPro command line. That use times index times the report form time rep to print and then quit. And so that's all loaded into key stack, and then it's fed back into FoxPro. And like I said, you have to load it first.
It's just doing it differently.
Yeah, it looks odd. I realize that. Next slide. And we talked about JPS tree earlier and how you generate it. And next slide. This was just intended as sort of an introduction to 4OS2. It's a very robust shell. And it works just like CMD for the most part. In other words, you can run just based on every command that exists in CMD and use none of the special stuff in here, and it would work just fine. It's not that it has anything that is remarkably different from CMD. There's probably a few little edge cases where something that would work in CMD wouldn't work here, but I haven't found any of them yet. Like I said, the rec stuff is the only thing that doesn't work exactly as expected. And that was the example I gave for the move earlier. So next slide. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, one question. Are you maintaining the core code only, or also the extending the notebook, the dialogue?
I'm maintaining all of it. It's
Cool.
It's the notebook someday will come to the top of the list for me to put 3 or 4 more pages in it so that you can do more setup from it. The documentation on how to use the other settings in the ini file. Oh, I didn't mention that. 4OS2 has an ini file, which is really just a flat text file. It is not a OS2 ini file. That has even the ones you put in the notebook end up in that file. They just get put into that file because that's the file that's one of two files that 4OS2 reads when it opens. And that's how it gets its setting. The 4start also is read at setup. It's a batch file, the 4start file. So it has, well, mine has things like what I want for a prompt. My prompt, one of the things that it does is it shows the error code of the program that ran before it. So I can look at the prompt. If I redirect a make file, I run a make file and redirect it into a text file. And so I don't see any of the output. I can tell if it completed successfully or not because I can see the error code. If it returns 0, I know it completed. If it returns 2, I know it didn't. And so it tells me whether if it returns 0, I don't need to go look at the text file I generated because there's not going to be anything of any value in it. And if it returned 2, I know I need to go open my text file. So it's kind of a convenient thing. And then, like I said, it also sets the .pl as to run Perl. Whereas the any file, all of those different configuration things that I talked about, all of that information is ultimately in the any file. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Keith Merrington. I want to talk to you about local cloud for OS2. But first, I wonder how many of you have a NAS? Oh, some have two, about 50%. Or do other people use a PC for backup? Another PC connected to his PC? Okay, so it's a same sort of system. Whether you use a NAS or a PC, you're probably connected via network. Okay. Who uses OneDrive? You're allowed to say you use Windows. Does anyone use OneDrive? Does anyone ever have used OneDrive? So you know what it is. At work. At work, yeah. Who uses... Oh look, I'm supposed to give a presentation now. Sorry about that. And now I have to switch it over. It goes again in 5 minutes. Oh, that's great. Come on. Off. That should correct it. Sorry about that. Who uses Synology as a NAS? Okay. Have you ever used Drive Client? Okay, so you know what that is. If anybody has QNAP, okay. Oh, you're good guys, aren't you? Do you use what's it called? MyQNAP Cloud? Never used it. Okay. Would you like something similar to this for OS2?
Yes.
Good guy. Thank you. Then maybe local cloud for OS2 is for you. Basically, I'm sorry, the local cloud is as Synology and as QNAP's solution for a local cloud. But first, what is a local cloud? A local cloud, sometimes called a private cloud, is a cloud computing environment that is hosted locally, not necessarily on your local machine, but on your NAS or the other PC. In this way, the local environment, local computing environment, is your own data center locally. For most of us, that basically means that the other PC is the host to the cloud. The advantages of having a local cloud are manifold, one of which is greater control, as opposed to the cloud that is not local at all. You have full control over your hardware, your software. You make it as you want it. Obviously, security and privacy are far better than if you're using the cloud. Nothing goes outside of your local cloud, so security is obviously far better. Everybody remembers the breaches made by Snowden and by SonicWall. Those sort of problems you won't have because it's all within your own control. Customization. You tailor your customization to what you want and not to what somebody else wants in the cloud environment. And it's trustworthy. One of the main things is consistent performance. You never know if you have a cloud-based provider what the performance is going to be. No competition for resources. You control it all, so you tailor it to what you want to do. Offline access, integration, everything is in local cloud a lot better. Long-term cost efficiency is such that it is profitable to do it locally. I did a calculation in a previous presentation which showed you how cheap a NAS can be as against commercial cloud costs. Okay, what is local cloud for OS2? Basically, local cloud for OS2 performs in the same way as a cloud synchronization program. So if a file is changed locally, it is copied to the cloud, your local cloud. When a file is present in the cloud, but not available locally on your machine, it's copied to your machine. This is basically what you want. The cloud is basically any system which you connect to your host system and it's connected via the network. Anything that you connect via the network that has a drive letter can be used as the cloud. Local cloud, this program is available in 3 versions. The basic version, which just does cloud synchronization, which means back and forth. Full is cloud synchronization plus a backup system. And for those of you who have used Synology, I forget the name of the program now, that does also synchronization and optionally backup. Then you have the option to upgrade from basic to a full system. So if you only want to do, first of all, synchronization, but later on you want to add backups, then you can just use an upgrade. All files in this program can also be accessed by standard OS tools. There are no proprietary files made that you cannot access outside of this program. That makes it very safe. If something goes wrong with the program, you don't have the program anymore, you can still get at your files. Local cloud can support up to 8 separate clouds. And we're coming to that why and how in a minute. Local cloud also supports versioning. So for example, if you have updated a file locally, it is put into the cloud, but in the cloud there is the old version. So you can get back a previous version of your file. One of the problems often is not when you start up your PC is a delay before the network becomes available. Local cloud supports 2 methods of waiting for the network. You can either have a fixed delay, wait half an hour for example, but probably only a couple of seconds, or wait until the network drive is available, whichever you prefer. Local cloud uses a wizard when you first start the program to help you set it up. And here you can read exactly the very first thing. Basically it's saying, oh, local cloud provides the ability, so on and so forth, and this is what it does. The next slide takes you into the settings window where you can set up each local cloud and how you do it. Here you see, in fact, 8 local cloud definitions. Once you fill the first definition in, it goes on to the second one, which are options. Do you want versioning, and so on and so forth. It takes you step for step through the setup. Then you come into the main screen. It says, well, what files do you want to be synchronized? So you define that in this screen. Once you've done that, you've added the files. Now it says you can start local cloud. So it runs you through simply because, well, if you've never done something with a program before, you don't know what's going to happen otherwise. It helps you. This is then the screen which shows you what's happening. Basically, it's telling you these files are the files you want to synchronize. I've kept it small here. And it can tell you the status of the synchronization. Local cloud supports single and multiple accesses to the same cloud. So for example, if you have two PCs, which two people use or you use, they can both be synchronized via that cloud. It supports this. When you have multiple connections, you probably want to know what they are. It will show you what connections are used. One of the problems with a NAS is often as not, it does not directly support EAs. And this can be very important on OS2 because you want to make sure if a file is copied, it also copies the EAs. This program does that automatically for you. You can suggest various deletion strategies. For example, you can say, if the file is deleted in the cloud, it is automatically deleted locally or not. Local cloud, as I say, the advanced or full version also supports backup. So you can back up files. You can schedule it once, daily, weekly, whatever you like. The program is available in English, German, and Dutch. But at this moment, only in English. Okay, 8 defined clouds. The reason for this is quite simple. When you define a file, we define a file on a particular drive, right? But on another drive, that file could have, another file could have the same name. If you didn't separate the fact that it's on a different drive, you're going to have a problem. Each cloud will only support one drive. So all the files on drive C, for example, the next cloud D, E, and F. So you can have 8 different clouds, and that way there is no problem with files having the same name on a different drive. Each cloud, to keep it simple, is given an identification, which is basically the cloud address. This, you fill in your path name, and that is how you define the cloud. So, for example, on my NAS, which is drive K, I can say drive K in the directory local cloud 1, give it a name. That is where all the files for ID 1 will go to. You can enter it directly, indirectly, use a browse button. I try to make it as user-friendly as possible. The microphone is hidden.
A quick question.
Sure.
So, can you define your path using a device name versus a
No,
drive?
as long as it has a drive letter.
Okay,
So you can't define it as a device, no.
all right.
Everything has to be connected via the network, and the network has to have a drive letter.
Right.
That's the basic premise. Once you've defined a cloud, it is locked in so that it is not inadvertently changed on the fly.
Does it has to be the same on different systems, or can it be a kind of redirect? Like you have a K drive on one system and the L drive on the other.
It doesn't matter. What is important that is on, for example, PC 1, Cloud 1 has the ID. On the other PC, Cloud 1 has the ID. It doesn't matter that on PC 2 it's called F, on PC 1 it's called G. They refer actually to the same location in the cloud. That is the only thing that has to happen. Obviously, it is easier when you use the same letters to avoid confusion. Yeah. Whenever this is initially specified, a check is done to make sure that the local cloud you have specified is empty and exists, because otherwise you'd be already starting with something that shouldn't be there.
Is there something like defined as the master of some things, or?
No, there's no master, no slave. Basically, they're equal. You just say which is more equal than the other one. For example, with deletions, you say, well, if I delete locally, I will also delete on the cloud. Or if I delete on the cloud, it will be deleted locally. Or if it is on the cloud and I delete it locally, it copies from the cloud back to the local system. You define what you want to do, which is very similar to the Synology app. Once the cloud has been defined, you have to define what files are going to be synchronized, added to the cloud. Once you define one file for a particular cloud ID, then you lock in that drive. So you can not add different files from different drives to that single cloud. So a cloud is drive specific, locally. Whenever you add a file, it is displayed in the container view, which I showed you on the first screen. So you can see what files are being synchronized.
And the individual files, or can they be wildcarded?
The files displayed are individual. Adding them can be via wildcards. But you always will see each individual file. As I said, with local cloud, you can add startup delays. The startup delay can be a simple time delay. You say, well, wait for 5 minutes while I go and get my coffee, and then start. It's very simple. Well, you can't see very easily here. You just select a delay and the time. You can wait for a particular time on a particular network drive becoming available. Or indefinitely until that drive becomes available. It depends on your philosophy. I use wait until the drive becomes available, because then I will know there's a problem if it doesn't. It will also give you an error when it tries to synchronize and it's not there. So, well. So basically, it will show you what drive's available, and you select for that drive the wait time. I've tried to make it foolproof, but as we all know, foolproof is never foolproof. So when you've got this waiting time active, you want to know it is active. And what you will see in the main screen, sync is paused, and you will get the countdown time until it becomes available, for example. The Add Files dialog allows you to add files to a particular cloud ID. The cloud ID 1 to 8, you specify and you say which files I'm adding to that cloud, and you can do it with include subdirectories. You can use wildcards, and with a bit of luck, you can get it just as you want. Yep.
I'm a bit confused. You say you add files, but isn't it simply synchronize the directory and everything below it?
No.
Oh.
It is on a file basis,
But
because in the cloud, the files are copied. File for file is copied. And you synchronize between files. And you can put a complete directory in, but it still will use each file to be checked.
yes, but normally, like in the Synology tools, you specify a directory,
Yeah.
and it automatically syncs everything below it, removes, etc.
That is correct. This does, but in fact, you see what files have been specified. It does not on the fly. If you say, okay, I'm going to add files to that directory, later on, it doesn't add those files automatically. You would have
does.
to
It
specify
just syncs the whole directory structure.
This doesn't.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there then an option for a resync? On repopulating the directory? To see, to find any new files?
Well, that's a good question. Maybe it's something I have to add. It's something that can be added. But initially, I haven't done it that way. If you, sorry?
So to clarify,
Yeah.
you do this initialization, and whatever files during that initialization, those are the ones who will be synchronized.
Correct.
If you then add files to that directory or subdirectories, you have to
You have to add them later.
Okay.
But it's an option. I think it's a good question, and it's something I will look at, because, but then you have to specify not the files you're adding, but also the directory. But it's a good question, and it's something I can look at. If there are, what did Lewis say? If there are enough people to pay me to add for this, I will do it. Whenever you add a file, it checks that you haven't already added it, because you don't want duplication. Once you have added, as I said earlier, a file to the cloud, a particular drive, that's locked in. So you can't choose other drives. You have to create a new cloud. Yep. Okay, your main screen. It will show you the file icon of the file. It will show you a synchronization icon, the status of that file. Has it been synchronized yet? Has it been deleted? The cloud ID, the title or long name of that file, the real name, the date last written and time, and a file size, and any attributes. So this is rather like the standard listing in an open command under details view PM, details view of a directory. You see the complete list. The only difference is you get a synchronization and a cloud ID as extra. Unfortunately, you can't see this too well, but this is then what I've said here. You see the synchronization status. So in this case, all those files have been synchronized. Obviously, there are situations when they haven't been synchronized. You have the file has been deleted. It's still in your synchronization list, but it's been deleted. This delete icon can also show whether it's been deleted locally or in the cloud. I haven't added that here yet. Undefined state. When you first start up, it doesn't know the synchronization state. We're busy synchronizing this particular file. It is synchronized and the file is open. I'll come on a little bit later on the problem of open files. Synchronizing an open file is not a problem. The problem is in multiple situations, if you have two open files, who is changing? Or should you allow anything to happen? So on PC1 you've got an open file, and this is in the multiple user mode. And on PC2 you've got an open file, the same file open, and you're editing it. No, we're not going to do anything. We want to say to you, hey, which one of you two guys are going to stop editing this file? Who has the file to be edited? Who's the boss? Yeah. The main screen also indicates if a synchronization is taking place. In the bottom right-hand corner, there is a small icon, a LED, and the color gives the situation. Synchronization takes place at regular intervals, and depending on how many files it has to synchronize, takes some time. But you can see it's happening. You can also see when it's red that for some reason the synchronization has been stopped. For example, if you're changing your settings, you stop the synchronization because you're changing the rules. If it's blue, it means there's a backup taking place. And during the backup, no files will be synchronized because you're changing things on the fly that you're backing up, so you don't want to do that. So you have a status there. Whenever you select a file, because there's only the file name in the details view, you also get the directory name so you know which directory it refers to. Complete identification of what you have selected. If there's a pause or a synchronization error, in the title bar you get that information. So you see immediately something's happening. You can see if the system is set up for single or multiple users. It detects this as it starts. With the simple icon, one person, or the multiple people, you know which mode you're in. Because when you're in multi-user mode, there are a few differences. The main screen. Above each column, there are some extra buttons. These extra buttons allow you to, if they're black, it's the active one, they allow you to sort that column. So for example, if you want your file names alphabetically, you sort that column. If you want to look at dates or anything else like size, file size, or attributes, you can sort on those columns. You can sort any one you want. Whenever you press the button, it sorts, and it will change the sort direction for the next time if you want to do the sort in another way. Obviously, there becomes a situation where you say, I don't want those files to be in the synchronization anymore. So you can remove them. Simply. You remove them from the synchronization. You do not delete them. That's something else. So all standard operations you do on files are nothing to do with the list of synchronization. You can select multiple files to be removed from the synchronization. There is a small undo feature, which is limited to the first 8 files. So if you make a mistake, you can go back. As I said, when you remove a file, it is not deleted, only removed from the synchronization. You can also remove a file using the File menu or by selecting the file. 8 removals. Okay, versioning. How does versioning work? Well, basically, before a file is updated, so before you copy the file to the cloud, a copy of that file is put in a version directory. All other files in the version directory are shifted to an older version directory. I've limited the versioning to 99, which I think should be more than enough. The only problem, the more versions you have, of course, the more copies you have of the same file, the more disk space you are using. It works in your local cloud. You have a directory, and for each directory you have a version directory. And then in the version directory are the various copies of the file. It's just a duplication of the files. Now, sometimes it's handy to look at the version. So you can look at a particular version, you can see which version number it is, you can see when that was originally written, and if you want, you can open that file, and it will be opened with a standard PM association for that file. For example, if it's a text file, it'll go to an editor. If it is a image file, you'll see the image. So the standard procedure of opening a file will be applied. File, current version number, and if you want, you can go up and down within the versions to see the previous or the next version and see what's the difference? Yes.
Maybe you're going to mention this, but do you set versioning at the file level, or do you have to set it
File.
globally?
It's file level.
Okay.
Oh,
Thanks.
no, sorry. It is a global selection. So if you say, I want version, it's on all the files.
Okay.
Option?
I have another question
Sure.
regarding the previous slides of the functionality, where you could say you remove a file from synchronization.
Yeah.
Sometimes you may need, okay, I need a lot of space now for something else. I do not want to completely remove those files from synchronization. I want just pause them, and then so I could delete my local files in the end effect to make more space on my local disk.
You can pause the complete synchronization if you wish, and then do what you want. So you just turn synchronization off for a limited amount of time, or or just to turn it off until you say restart.
Is that possible for all 8
That
cloud
stops the
option at
complete.
once, or it
No,
is
it's
per
all
cloud?
of them at once.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure why would you want to just stop for one. That's basically the idea. But it's like everything. Add a change request and money.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, as I said, you can go up and down to see particular versions. And the file is opened using the default association of that file. If you want, you can say, well, remove that version or save it to somewhere else. Because maybe you only have 10 and you think, I really need to hold that version somewhere. That's also possible. Multi-user. When a file is opened, normally that file is opened generally, not always, for read and write access or read only. So if you open a file for read and write access, you then also say, I don't want anybody else to be able to open that file except to read it. This is defined in each program that does anything with a file. So in most editors, for example, you open the file, it says, okay, you can read this, anybody can read this, nobody can write. Only me. That's the way it works in OS2. Problem is, when a file exists in multiple locations, not on the same system, you have a problem. How do I know that he's opened the file, you've opened the file, it's the same file, how do we know they're open? In OS2, there's no communication between you two. But if we're synchronizing it, there's going to be a problem. So, this mechanism that we normally have on a local machine is not available across the network. Bless you. So what we do in local cloud is check if a file is open. Because if it's open, hey, who's opened it? I then check, is it open on another system? If it's open on another system, then we've got a problem. So we regularly scan through open files. if a file is open, this is marked and indicated and put in the cloud. So at cloud level, we have a list of open files and from where they are open. You want a microphone?
There are different open modes. You can open mode in exclusive, so that even locally no other program
That is
can
correct.
read or access a file, and or you can say, I just open it, even perhaps only read only or read write,
Yeah.
and other can still access the same
Yes.
file,
Yes.
and not all programs.
I'm coming on to the last bit.
Okay, and
You,
this is,
you know
really
the
good.
problems, yes. Yes, exactly. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we're writing a list of open files and we know who's opened them. And we check regularly the status of this situation, and we see the device that's opened it, and we see if there is a conflict. When the file is no longer open, this is updated. So we have a dynamic situation. What we also do is, if Greg opens the file on his system, you have the file on your system, it will open the file on your system. Then you can't open it yourself, right? And vice versa. So this is the way it blocks. The problem is, this is not done atomically. So, because if you both open at the same time, even if it's in within a couple of seconds, sorry guys, if it's in a couple of seconds, we've got a problem. What's the solution? Come on, look intelligent, guys. Now, the only thing is, if Greg's opened it, I'm sending a message to you to say, open the file, and I can't. Oh, then I say, both are open. Or maybe three have got it over, I don't know. But the only thing I can do is send a message to each of you to say, hey, somebody's opened this file, which one of you is going to close it? And we can't do any synchronization between you two with regards to that file. That's the only way you can do it. Or if somebody's got a really smart method, let me know. Oh, you're not that smart, right? No, but seriously, this is the problem. We have, of course, if you look at other operating systems, for example, using Active Directory, they block it internally when you try to open a file. Possibility will be to have the program on your NAS and you do it from there, but I don't want to go down that road. Okay, because the settings for multi-user, you want to have the same on each system, because otherwise you get strange things happening, I have built in a possibility to export your files or the settings from local cloud and import them on the other system. So you don't have to type it all in again. I'm lazy. And it makes it easier for me to check it. So, the exported items are the local cloud definitions. If you have different drive letters, you will have to update that manually, but that's only with regard to the drive letter in the cloud definition. The options, I exported. EA settings, which I haven't talked about. and the backup settings. So you have similar settings. You can change them afterwards, but you can start from there. And of course, the list of files to synchronize. But again, you can customize that further, because you might have a multi-user system, but not everything is the same. Not all the files on one system are on the other system. So that's not a problem, because you have locally control over, well, which files you synchronize. Sorry, I slipped into Dutch. Here's the export page, very simple. You just select what you're going to, what you're using, you want to copy, and you tell the file name, and then you walk with the floppy disk to the other system. No, you transfer the file, and you load it up on the other system. Okay. When the full version of local cloud is activated, then all backup features are also available. Backup files at specific dates and times, restore files as required, show pending backup operations, so you know what's going to happen, show current and last backup, so you know what's happened. So you can look at the activity. Is something actually happening at the moment? Those are the basic things within the backup. You have 10 different schedules that you can use. I think 10 should be sufficient, but if necessary, this can be expanded, as always. Your backup is either a full backup, an incremental, or differential. Those are the three versions. Each schedule must define the source and the destination, which is obvious. The source can be either a complete drive or a directory in the files, or just a simple file. If it's a very important big file, just a single file. You then define when and how often the backup should take place. You may decide once, I just want to make one backup of this, and you can do it immediately. Or you can say daily, specific date and time, weekly on a particular day, date and time, monthly in a specific week on a specific day, whatever you want. The backups use the zip file format. The reason I've used this, as I said at the beginning, if anything happens, you have access to this file outside of this program. You're not locked into the program. It's not a proprietary file system. So you can restore using unzip if you wish. Another advantage of using zip is that all EAs and symbolic limps are also backed up. You can, if you wish, in the backup also list things you don't want to back up from a particular drive, for example. I don't want to back up all the temp files, that sort of thing. You can see the situation of what's happened in as much. Suppose you don't keep your system on 24 hours a day, but sometimes you switch it off. when you switch it on, it sees, hey, maybe I've missed doing a backup because I should have done that while the machine was off. That's also noted. You can also choose to delete backups automatically because after a while your backup drive becomes full. And we've all had that problem. So you can say, well, after 6 days, delete. Or I've got 6 backup sets, then delete. Question.
Does it actually give a warning, for example, via email that your backup drive is full? Because it's not the first time that I've seen also at a large company like, oh shit, the storage ran full, but we didn't notice it.
Yeah.
Now we're too late.
No, because this is a local system. You're there. So why do you want why do you want an email? And I don't have that
Or
in
a
it.
pop-up in your program then.
That could be done. The last could be done.
Because ArcOS has made great progress, but one of the things where it's absolutely brain dead in is that, for example, it doesn't automatically clean out the temp directory or the download directory. So
Yeah.
everything stashes up and then you suddenly hit 0. And
Yeah.
then you get these magic experiences where Thunderbird suddenly says, I can't save any more emails because it then turns out that the
Yeah.
drive has 0
Okay.
bytes available.
Yeah, well, that's why I put in, you do an automatic deletion after a certain period of time, or you say so many sets. Backup planning. Whenever you look in the system, you can see the next 16 backups that are programmed in with the dates and the time. Whenever you look at any one of these planned items, you can select them and you get more details about exactly what that backup is. Unfortunately, you can't really see this, but this is a list where you see that this particular backup type, and we had 10, this one is going to come at this date, and we get then an information color code. If it's black, it's planned. It hasn't happened yet. If it's happened and no problem, you don't see it. If, however, for example, it's been missed because the PC was off, it will be shown in red and say, what do you want to do? Do you want to do this backup now? You can choose. You can cancel that backup, and you will see that as well. If it's currently running, you will also see that backup is in progress in this screen. Missed, cancelled, in progress. That's what you then see. And of course, planned. You can look at this in various ways. You can look at for all backups, or you can go in a specific backup based on a sort of backup ID number. So in the planning, you can select backup 0, then it shows you all of them, or you can select a particular backup number. If you do all of them, you see initially which backup number that is that you've selected to look at further. In this case, I've selected this backup, which is going to take place on the 30th of March 2026 at 5 o'clock in the morning. I've used AM and PM to try and make it a little bit more obvious. So the backup ID is given, date and time, source is displayed, the destination for that backup, and you see the backup method and the schedule type. So you've got all the information on each backup. Next, we want to restore something. That's the next thing. If you made a backup, You hope you never have to, but we should be able to. Now, the restore is shown in two different windows. The left is the known locations, and this is taking it from what he's learned from you. Thank you. What he's learned from you. And on the right-hand side, what backups. But in order to get anything in the right-hand side, you need to define in which particular location I'm looking at. So the right-hand window is initially blank because you haven't defined it. If you define a particular location, you then have to define, am I only going to look at full or only look at incremental or differential backups? You can say full and incremental, and it will show you that list. Or you can say full and differential. You cannot say full, incremental, differential, because that has no real purpose. Because you can only do full and incremental to restore, or full and differential to restore. Incremental, differential, you should never try to restore together, because it's stupid. If you have a location that's not listed there for some reason, because the program only knows the locations that you are using from the existing list of backups. And if you have changed a backup location, it's gone, you can still get at it via an extra screen. You can show that screen, which shows you then the other locations that you now have to define. The selection window is such that you can only select one full backup at a time to restore. Yeah? Everybody looks a little blank. When you're restoring, if you're restoring the same set of backups, it's a backup, a full backup, and then a number of incrementals, right? That's the way you do it. I like the way everybody's saying, So, you can also select one full backup and any number of incrementals. Because if you've made a full backup and using incremental backups, you start to do your backup, first the full, then the next incremental. You have to add all the incrementals. Right? That's the standard procedure. If we were using a differential system, then it's one backup, one differential, the last one. Right?
I've seen other schemes in companies. There's probably one full backup monthly,
Yeah.
one differential backup weekly, and then based on these backups from the last differential backups during the week, incremental backups. So you would have one full backup to restore plus the last differential and all follow-up incremental.
Yeah. Well, basically, this makes sure you don't select multiple full backups It's not that you can't. If you select, or you try to select more full backups, it would just only allow you to select one. If you try to select multiple incrementals and a differential, it doesn't allow. You can select a differential by itself and restore. So you could do that, but it just helps you not make mistakes. In the same way, if you have a list of incrementals, it will make sure you do the complete list. Otherwise, it gives an error, and you say, no, I'm going to do it anyway this way. It allows you to do it. So, obviously, after selecting the backup to restore, you have to say where to. What I've also added in this is that if you want, you can restore to the original location. You can check that. Now what it does do is check that the original location is still the same drive. So as part of the restore, or as part of the backup file, an EA is written to that backup file saying, this is the original location, and this is the ID of that original drive. Because supposing you put it on a stick, there's always a chance you put a different stick in to back up to, or whatever. There's a chance that somehow you get screwed up on the drive letter, because drive letters we can change. So it cross-checks that the disk ID is the same as the one in which you originally used, and when you're restoring to the same drive. There's a microphone.
So what if you need this backup because the original drive is gone?
No problem.
You could still
This is if you
Restore.
say restore to the original. If you don't say restore original, you say exactly where you want to restore it to. But it's a sort of fail-safe when you think you're restoring it to the same place. That's all it is.
Thank you.
So if you do restore to original, it cross-checks it. If you don't, you fill in where you want it to go. Bless you. That I just said. Okay. It displays the disk ID, so you can cross-check that. Does everybody know where you can see the disk ID on Arc OS? Not sure. At least if you do a directory listing at the very top, there's the disk ID. Yeah, it's something we don't generally see. We just look down what's in the directory. It's not like that, the label. We also have an activity page, which is basically showing you what's happening at the moment. It will show you the current backup, if it's happening or what's happened. It gives you a start and end time. If there's no end time, it's in progress. And if you want, here you can even say stop, because who's not started something that they didn't really want to do? So we have a terminate button. If the terminate button is not active, it's not active, so you can't terminate it. As simple as that. Same applies for a restore. You can stop the restore, which of course is a little bit dangerous, because if you're overwriting stuff, you're in a strange situation. Okay.
Does it only have a completely stop or abort button?
No, it doesn't have pause. Because for example, the backup is done detached and is running asynchrone with the rest. So no chance to pause.
Does that mean you can do backups in parallel of different clouds?
Possible but not tested. Because it starts that backup from what we've specified. It starts the action, and if you have another defined a couple of seconds later, it can do that as well.
So
The only problem is in the activity page, you'll only be able to terminate the last one.
okay, so you prefer sequential.
That's up to you. You can do what you want, but it's your decision. And you have to take the consequences of that decision because, well, it's done differently. Okay, now
Yeah,
this,
and you have to
sorry.
look for how long it takes for the first backup run to determine if you do automatic things that they better not run at the same time, because that often has a hefty performance penalty.
yeah, sure, that is the point. I mean, it's not foolproof. I have thought of adding, for example, look at past backups, look at the time they took, see if you're going to start another backup, is there going to be a no. It gets then too complex and too dangerous. So you have to be clever enough to say, I do this backup, then that backup. And if it's at night, why not? And if they're different drives, why not? Can be done. Okay. I'm looking for volunteers. Everyone puts their hand up. Good. Because, first of all, this program is not quite finished. So I want people that will test this program and report back the bugs, because there are certainly bugs in them. I find one every day. And this would also include the help files. So if anybody wants to help me, please. If you people that are online, you can help me too. Send me an email or talk to me after this presentation. If you email me, give me your email address and some relevant information so I know what sort of testing you can do. Maybe you just want to look, are all the dialogues sensible, correct, whatever. All active testers, and I say active, will get a 50% price reduction on this program. I can't be more honest than that. And if you're really good, we might even get one free of charge. As I said, here's the pricing structure. The basic is 45, the full is 60, and an upgrade 25. So it makes sense to buy the full one. This is marketing, guys. Local cloud will become available on Hobbies. I'm not sure after the discussion yesterday which one. Both probably. And it will become available in the Arc Noah store. So you can then buy it there. There's somebody coming.
Is it already available for translation?
Yes.
Language, I mean.
Yes. You want to do some translation? You want to translate my Dutch into real Dutch? The version on Hobbies we'll give you a 1 month trial period, so if you like it, you can buy it. If you don't like it, you throw it away. That's the standard idea. Yes, you're looking a little bit.
No, I was gonna, I just had some comments.
Yes, please.
Well, I was gonna let you finish first.
The planned availability, or do you want your comments now?
Oh, please.
Okay, the planned availability is, this is what I think I should be able to do. As I say, it's almost finished. The basic version will be available in 6 to 8 weeks' time. That depends on my testers, how much or how many problems they find. The full and upgrade version, about 12 weeks in total from now. So that is my planning.
What is the difference between the full and the basic?
The basic is only the standard synchronization. The full includes the backup. Yeah, that's the difference. And if you say, well, I just want to do synchronization first, see how that goes, you can upgrade later. So then it just, like we do in automobiles nowadays, you buy the full package, but we enable only certain stuff. Yeah. Pre-ordering during Warpstock. We've got to make sales, guys. Anybody ordering now will get a discount. And this is the discounts. So, open your wallets. You may pre-order, guys, online if you wish, via email. As long as I receive before the 8th of June, no, that should be the end of the week, basically. End of the week, and it's paid before the end of the week, you will get the discount. And now I'm going to try a demo. It is running under VirtualBox, which gives some problems, and what I can't demonstrate correctly is the synchronization, because basically that means I'm only synchronizing within one PC, which is not very nice, and some of the stuff I just can't show. So you have to take my word that it works, and all those testers can then tell me it doesn't. Okay, oops. So here we go, guys. So everybody knows the Arc OS screen. This is how the program starts. In this case, it's completely blank because I haven't defined anything to synchronize. I don't know if any of you can read this. It's in German. Dateien, Einstellung, Aktion, Hilfe. Is that correct? Thank you. It's a good start. And I was trying to go here, but I have to look here, of course. Let's.
You're telling me your German's not too bad, so we'll assume that,
I will restart it. I've changed it to English. It does certain things on the fly, but not everything at the moment. So now you see file settings, it looks normal. So if I go, we have a log, because everything that is done is logged, so you can look back at it, so you can access the log from this program even while it's running. You can add, and this is basically add the files for the synchronization. So if I type in, and I'm not sure what I have for directories on this machine, but let's have a look. Yeah, I selected a directory, and this directory is very empty. It only has one file, but that's been added. And it disappeared. Hey, I was synchronizing, so I've got something in my synchronization which deletes it because it's not on the top. But I can select, and what you see is the cloud ID is now fixed. Well, you can't quite see it, can you? No. I couldn't make this any bigger. No. Sorry.
You should make the resolution lower.
I have. But I made it even lower, and then you can't read it at all. Doesn't matter what you do. So I can say, well, I could go crazy now. You have a browse system, so I could have done it this way. And you see then I add more files. I can remove certain versions, but I'll go what is nicer to see. And for example, the settings page. Oh, it's also lousy to see, I'm sorry. But here it is where you select your clouds as I defined. Here's an option page which allows you to show all messages, because you can hide some messages because otherwise you might be inundated. Propagate deletions, remove deleted files, remove from the NAS, remove locally. Also remove versions. So if you decide, you can remove all versions. This is the enable versioning, where you can select the amount of versions and also your synchronization delay. What I didn't discuss is you can select to not copy certain EAs if you wish. There's 2 pages, but what you see is some of them are not defined because you haven't defined the cloud. If you haven't defined the cloud, you can't define what you're not going to do to that cloud. Here's the backup page. Again, it's a shame you can't see any of this, really.
Well, maybe on the live stream.
Oh, on the live stream. The live stream guys are lucky. We aren't, are we?
Watch it for the ball that's on your foot.
I know, I feel it. Thank you. So, for example here, this is already defined and I can't change it unless I use an edit key. Now I can change things in an original backup. So this protects it, really. Everyone's waiting for me to fall. So it protects what you've defined. I try to make things, as I say, as foolproof as I can. Okay, I've selected another of the backups. This is backup number 3. I will say edit. If you watch down here, everybody ready? Because it happens and it goes. This is zip.x running in the background. Oh, it's already completed. So you get a message, completion. which only stays for a couple of seconds because you don't want to stop everything because there's a message there. And it's not an error message, so. And if I then go to the activity, here you can see what you can't see, but the date it started and finished. That's what happened. This is the backup page where I can say, ignore this, ignore that. Here's the backup page which is telling me what's going to happen, and this is all of the backups that are planned. What you can't see, but the first one comes from backup ID 1, and most of the rest are backup IDs 2. But if, oh, a bug. This is the demo bug, right? Crunch, crunch, crunch. Let's see. Okay. Work now. As always, works the second time, doesn't it? I've now selected only backup IDs 1, so I can see only those backups when they're going to happen. That's what you can do in this. Okay. This is the restore page. I will say what's this here. I've just selected full backups, and what you get is the directory, and the full backup, the directory name, the file name begins with an F. And then it's a sequential number, .zip. So the last one here is 6. If I run another full backup, it will be 7. And that's the way it goes. Keep it simple, right? We're almost there. Once you've paid. I now selected also incrementals. What you can't see, I haven't got any. But that's the way it works. Okay. Oh yeah, I was going to show you the help files, but I forgot to copy them over into virtual disk. The English help file is almost complete. It's complete in so much as the program is complete. The German and Dutch, they only say I'm German and I'm Dutch, and they need to be written. Okay, gentlemen, if you want to look at this better, then we have to do it separately, but that's not a problem. So basically, we are we've just had that. And now, any questions?
General comment.
Yes,
Okay.
sure.
I like it.
Thank you.
I like it. And it's primarily useful for the individuals in this room because we're doing development and we're saving a specific project and you want it shared everywhere.
Yep.
Now, this is a general comment. Next comment is general comment in regards to cloud, private cloud.
Yep.
It's critical not to get caught up in thinking that you have a complete backup system if you have a private cloud, because you don't, okay?
No.
Because all of us, you know, our private clouds are sitting in our garage, in a utility room in our garage. If you have a power tool battery that has a bad day, if your EV has a bad day,
I know where you're going.
okay.
That's true.
Yeah.
This just allows the backup to your local cloud.
Right.
I did a discussion last year, and what I have a local cloud at my home. My brother-in-law, my wife's husband.
Right. You've got
He
another.
has NAS there, which I installed, and my backups go there as well. One backup is not a backup. That is true. So all you're doing is doing a local backup, so you've got another copy. And you can restore back to a certain situation. That is true. When you have a local cloud, you also have to think, how am I backing up my local cloud? And as I said, what I do is I have an off-site Synology NAS, and I'm transferring at certain times my change data to his system. And he does some stuff back to me. That is reasonable. It can still go wrong.
Oh, that can still go wrong, but you've at least followed the 3-2-1 rule.
Yeah, the basic rule if you're having backups is also to have them at a different location.
That's the one.
Yeah, yes.
This is your wife's husband?
No, that's me.
Okay. I
Thank
was
you.
just wondering what the reliable access is to the data.
No, this is my daughter's husband, and I installed it. I've got the passwords. It's just physically in another location, and they do use it as well.
Do you consider password encryption of files? Like the zip files you mentioned?
Well, I haven't put any encryption on this, basically because it's local. Yeah. But you know that the zip command does allow encryption. So it would not be too difficult to add that to the program. Encryption just gives you another overhead. That's the only problem. And like most things, if you've encrypted it, where are you going to install the encryption key? That's the other big problem. You know, who's never had something encrypted and forgotten the key? Where did I put that?
Well, you keep it right next to the file.
Well, I tell you, you zip it in the file, yeah. Yeah, but and you have to unencrypt it. Yeah, good guy, yeah. No, but when I was working for Assembleon, we had customers that had very large machines running on OS2, producing production units. This was, for example, Ford, Delco, and on the machines, they generally had to post it, the logging code, because in a production environment, nobody wants to delay anything if you have to reboot or do anything. And, well, then you wonder why. And, you know, the same thing, if you have the files encrypted, I can do that. There's just one switch to add to zip. But remember, I can't help you with decrypting it if you don't have your key. You really have to think carefully. Well, maybe we're going to put that in password safe when I've done it. Yeah?
If you'll allow me to ask, what are you guys doing for off-site storage? Or do you have off-site? I mean, Glenn, you?
I'm rolling the dice. Okay. Now that's in my personal stuff. I generally have, I still have the 3-2. Okay. For the critical stuff, I have 3 copies on 2 different sets of media. All right.
But it's all in your house.
But it's in my house. Yeah, because, you know, I mean, the obvious, this is why online backup companies, programs, websites have become are popular. You have to make that decision as an individual. Do you want your information somewhere else?
Does anybody here store your data off-site?
Yes, well, to a small extent, it's just SVN.
Okay. I'm just curious on what the rest of the world is doing to make me
Yes,
feel guilty.
also
about not
only
doing
a
it.
very small amount of data which I store on a rented virtual server somewhere for those offsite storage, or for either a VPS or root server or a website with storage space. You want probably to have encryption to that external
Yeah.
system, so
yeah, sure.
it would be
Well,
nice, but for local storage it's
Yeah.
probably overkill.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking too. Do your local backups, and if you want to store that somewhere else, then store it with encryption. But you don't have to necessarily have it locally encrypted. But again, save that encryption key with your mother, with your father, your daughter, your brother, and make sure you can get it back, because this is the problem. You lose the encryption key, basically you're fucked. That's it.
So one more question,
Sure.
if I may. You're using some kind of transport to get this from the machine that is being backed or synced to the machine that is being stored on.
Yeah?
Is that Samba or NetBIOS, or
Well,
it
basically
doesn't
all
matter?
I do is I use, let me think, I use Samba for locally, Samba from Arca to my NAS, and that works well.
Because I have problems with Samba, or I should say, if I'm backing up a large number of files with Samba, it falls over partway through. If I zip it all into one large file, for instance, if I try and copy every file off a hard drive with Samba to another machine, it'll fail halfway
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
If I zip all of that same data into a single file and then copy
Send
it
it, yeah.
through Samba, it'll work. But it seems to have a problem with.
Well,
A stupid question. Did you ever open a ticket? Because that's not supposed how Samba's supposed to behave.
No.
but, well, I'm glad to hear it works with zip, because that's, you saw it, that's the process I'm using. And I'm using that for two reasons. One, I can easily bundle the files. It makes them smaller, so the backup files are smaller. It adds, as I said, the EAs, so I don't take that into account. It adds any symbolics. It's all there. With regards to the synchronization to the NAS, I have to split the EAs off of the original file. I put that in a new file, and that is transported to the NAS as two different files. That file containing the EAs, as I said, I use standard protocols, that you can decrypt using the EA util. So you can get all your EAs back. You don't have to have my program to get it back. Everyone knows the EA util? Yeah. Oh, you're more intelligent than I thought. No, but seriously, that was one of my other gripes. I've had backup programs which I've used on the other operating systems, should we say, and then you're stuck with a proprietary, and if the system crashes, you have to have a special disk to boot that reads your backup and can put it back. I don't like that. It has some advantages. It can be a little bit quicker or a little bit smaller, but in the long run, I think you lose out. So I try to keep everything standard, except my program.
I think you said you did an off-site. Was it you? You were a good one? Or is it, sorry? Okay.
Well, yeah. This is also similar to Dropbox, in as much you specify what goes to Dropbox. Any online questions, or have I flummoxed them?
Apparently, no, there are no questions there.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, I hope I gave you some information, and I'd like to thank you and get all the orders immediately. Cash is appreciated. No, but seriously, let me know if you want to help out with testing, because I want to make sure this product really works. And as I say, I find every time I boot up a problem, and they're not major problems, most of them. Some are just textual things, or the dialogue books doesn't quite work as it should. So please, and thank you.